Hello everyone, I want to welcome you to Scottish Summit 2021. My name is Taiob. I'll be talking about Azure SQL Database, where is my SQL Agent. Before I start, I want to thank the organizers for all their volunteer work, bringing such a summit around the world free of cost to thousands of professionals like us. And these are some of our sponsors for this summit. Because of them and their contribution, the organizers were able to bring the sessions to you at free of cost. So if you need any of their products, please visit their websites and get in touch with them. And we want to thank them again for sponsoring this big event. I currently work at a company named GMO LLC, headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts in US, and I lead the database solutions team. I'm not going to read the whole bio in the interest of time, but these are some of my contacts, and I'll show those again at the end of the session. So because of the time, and we are virtually doing this and I cannot see you, so if you have a question later on, once you download my slide deck and the demo code, if something was not clear or there was something that I did not explain the way I should, or you didn't understand, you can definitely reach out to me and I'll make sure that I get back to you and give you the answer that you need. So why am I talking about this? Why should you listen to this talk? As traditionally we are used to using SQL Server Agent in our database maintenance tasks or server maintenance, SQL Server, we will schedule our scripts at certain time, and then we do not have to do this manually every time. Now, as we move to cloud, there are different ways you can set up your SQL Server. There is SaaS solution, which is called Software as a Service. There is PaaS, and there is IaaS. And today we'll be mostly focusing on PaaS, Platform as a Service. Once you install a SQL Server or you create a Azure SQL Database, Microsoft takes care of your hardware, your operating system, hardware, your SQL Server engine, patching. You do not have to worry about those. But there are still things that as a data professionals, as a DBA, as an operation DBA or developer, that we do care. And I put some of these in this slide. And this is not exclusive list. There are other stuff that you might have to do, and there are some stuff here that you do not have to do. I know there is a strong opinion in the community about index maintenance, if we should do it or not. It's up to you. So this talk is not, I'm not trying to tell you how do you maintain it, what do you do. But if you have to do any of this, how do you do it in Azure SQL Database? Because there is no SQL Server Agent. I understand it. If you're using managed instance, you do get a SQL Server Agent. So some of you who haven't looked at the cost in detail, you might be asking, why do I bother about this? Why I do not just go and use SQL Server managed, SQL managed instance? For them, my answer will be go and look at the price tier. Do you really need to use a managed instance, or you can get by to support your application with Azure SQL Database? And if your company has all the money in the world to spend, go for it. But the place that I work, we are very cautious about spending money, spending companies' money that we do not have to. So, and in many instances, we find that Azure SQL Database is a better solution compared to managed instance, at least price-wise. So this slide maybe some of you might be thinking, you're talking about cloud, so why on-premise? What is to do with this? Now, most people, including myself, we are still in a hybrid situation, meaning some of our SQL Server estate is on-premise data center. Some we have moved to cloud. We are in the process of moving more. And the people that I come across, most of you are probably in this boat. So what I'm going to show you, there are some solutions that you can take advantage of your on-premises structure that you have. And if you do not have it for those, also I'll show you a couple of things that is totally in the cloud. And at the end of this talk and the demo, you have to decide what solutions work for you. You might have to use a couple of those based on your need and what you have. But I want to show you, a couple of choices. So depending on what you need, you can choose from there. Now, when I say on-premise, what can we do? So if you have a SQL server, you can use a linked server. You can write a PowerShell script, schedule it with a Windows scheduler, or if you have a third-party scheduler, like if you have a Tidal or some other scheduler that your company is using already, you can write a bunch of scripts, T-SQL, PowerShell, and you can point those to your Azure SQL database, schedule those via your third-party scheduler. Now, some of you might not have anything on-premise anymore, so you are totally in cloud. So if you have Azure IaaS VM, or you can spin up Azure IaaS VM, and you can have a small size VM running SQL Server, and you can use that agent to do everything I talked about on the on-premises. Or you can schedule those in your Azure IaaS VM, your PowerShell or your other scripts with your Windows scheduler. And if you do not like that, if you are 100% on the PaaS solutions that you are using in Azure, you can use Azure Automation, Azure Function, Elastic Job Agents, Web Jobs. So I will not go into details into Web Jobs. I came across people that they are using Web Jobs for managing Azure SQL Database for maintenance purpose. I haven't done. I personally, don't think that that's the best solution, but I still want to point that out because that's also another option. So the first one is link server. Pretty simple. If you have used link server on-premise to point one server to another server, same concept on an on-premises SQL server or an Azure IaaS VM SQL server, you can create a link server, point to Azure SQL Database, and do your operations. What's the drawback here? You cannot create a link server to an Azure SQL server. It's per database. So if you have hundreds of those, you have hundreds of link server, and it might not be practical sometimes. So we'll see this more in detail during the demo. Then I talked about you can have a PowerShell function, and you have a Windows task scheduler. Once you write your script, test it, and you can schedule it same as a SQL Server agent from your Windows host. Azure Automation, it's a cloud-based solution, and totally it's a different service. It has nothing to do with your Azure SQL database, but what you can do, you can write PowerShell code, and then you can schedule those, right? You can write it, test it, and then schedule it. Now, this is called a runbook. Once you write this and you schedule everything, then it's the same as a SQL Server agent job. You forget about it. Now, there are different kind of runbooks. I put a couple of resources. I'm not going to go into details. During the demo, I'll show you one. Also, there is a gallery that you can download, and then you can start editing from there. They're legally allowed to reuse for us. Now, one caution: once you download those, please do not start using it right away in your production. Go through the code. I hope you understand what it's talking about, and then test it thoroughly, and then put it in your production. Now, you can do it in two different ways. You can just write totally code. Also, there is a graphical runbook. So this is, if you are familiar with the SSIS, if you remember, you could drag and drop a couple of things and then connect them together and then edit those. Put your scripts inside. You can do pretty much the same. here you can also share stuff. So like if you have a connection string, you have credentials, certificates, you can share those across your different runbooks. So you create those things at one time and then you can use it over and over. Now there is also facility to use Azure Automation / runbook to control your devices on premise. I'm not going there today, but if you go to the resources you can read about it. A lot of people are doing it. So from one place, from cloud, you can manage your stuff in cloud and also on premise. This is a Azure Friday video to talking about Azure Automation. I just put the picture here and the link, and you can search it. This will give you a pretty good introduction in 15 minutes how Azure Automation works. And look up other videos for Azure Fridays. They're about 15 minutes. They come out every Friday. You can put your RSS feed or you can put notification whatever way you want. It's pretty cool. Next one is Azure Function. This is something that I've been using currently at my workplace as the main tool for managing my Azure SQL database. Initially I was not a big fan of it. I was looking at Azure Automation, but then I switched to Azure Function and the reason I was not a big fan of this service for this task, as you can see in this slide, it has some limitation. The max runtime, and it was only 10 minutes. Choices of language was one of my primary reason not to use it, because 2 years ago it was not supporting PowerShell, and most of my scripts for managing SQL Server was written in PowerShell. So I did not want to switch to another language, and at that time Azure Automation was already supporting PowerShell, so that's where I started. But then things changed a little bit, and during Ignite 2019 this bunch of announcements were made. The runtime went up to 120 minutes. You can have cold start, so I can pre-assign my compute if I have a critical operation that I do not want to wait in the queue to get compute power. I could grab those before, or I could have it assigned for my functions. And also it started supporting PowerShell. So these are a couple of the reasons that I like. Also another thing is good, that if you have dependency in your function for different modules, you mention those at the top, and it will automatically keep it up to date. I do not have to do anything, which was a big win, right? So I don't have to go back and make sure that I have the right module and everything. Next is Elastic Jobs. I want to caution here a little bit, and that this feature has been in the preview for a long time, and I do not have any inside scoop why, but I still want to caution you, this is still in preview, and I've been watching this space for a long time, and it's still in preview. So just want to let you know, you might have your opinion about a feature that's been in preview for a very long time in Microsoft. Now this one again, very flexible. This has some look and feel of what we are used to on premise for SQL Server Agent. Drawback, still does not support PowerShell, only T-SQL. So how does this work? You have to assign a logical database, so logical server and Azure SQL database, which is they call it job database, as you can see in this picture. Job database is pretty much similar to what we are used to MSDB on premise, and I'll show you some of this stuff. You can also have another database to your to write your collections, but you can also write it in the same database. It's your choice. which in this picture they call it output database. So in the job database, you can have your target group, means where you want to target this job, what are the resources it's going to run against, and the target can be many things. We'll look at in the next slide. You can have your job definition, you can have your schedule also in the job database, all your metadata pretty much, and output is, it's going to write whatever you are collecting or your logs and stuff. Now what can be my target? As you can see here, it can be a logical server, can be elastic pool, can be an individual database. And this is a slide that talks a little bit about how do you set up your security around it, right? And in my demo code, you'll see that I put details because I'll show you some of this stuff, and I also put links to read about this. So you have a job agent, you have job database, target group, and you have your jobs. But then you have to have the right credentials because you're going from one database to another database. So make sure whatever account you are using, it has the proper permission for whatever you want to do with your jobs, right? If you're just reading and collecting, then you just need read permission. If you want to modify, you need write. If you are doing schema changes and stuff, you have to have the correct permissions. The concept doesn't change than what we are used to on premises. Now these are pictures taken from Microsoft documentation, just to show you that what can be your target group, right? So and I'm not going to read this, but you can have all kind of permutation combination when you are doing your target group. So if you have a task that you want to run across all your Azure SQL database, mostly for monitoring, so your target group, you add everything. But then if there are particular databases that you want to exclude, you can do that. If you are using elastic pool and you have a bunch of things there, you can just mention your pool name and things will run against all the Azure SQL databases in that pool. Now this is a picture I took that you are probably familiar with, right? If you go to your MSDB today on premises and expand this table views and store procs, you will see pretty much similar names of objects. This is what exactly happened when you turn on your Elastic Job Agent against Azure SQL Database. All these get created, like SP start job, SP stop job that we are used to on premise. They will all get created in your job database. So that's it. I am done with the slides. I'll come back at the end to show you a couple of things. So let me switch to the demo. So before I start the demo, I want to tell you what I'm using. I'm using Azure Data Studio, and I put it in my slide. This is the latest version, 1.25.3. I will be doing a lot of stuff also in the Azure portal just to show you, and occasionally I might switch to Management Studio. I'm also using a on-premises locally hosted in my laptop a SQL Server 2019 with the latest CU9. So these are a couple of things in case if you are going to run my code. I'm also using a notebook, a couple of notebooks and straight scripts. A notebook, if you are not familiar with, please look it up. With Azure Data Studio, you can create different kernel notebooks like PowerShell, T-SQL, Python, Custo. The advantage is I can have my comments in different fonts, colors, which you cannot do it in Management Studio. I can have my code, and I can also have my result of my code output, and I can save it all and send it to someone. So for them, without running this, they can read my comments, look at the code, and also look at the output if they do not have all the bells and whistle or all the software to run this. Now this session is only for 45 minutes, and as you can see, these scripts take about 40 to 50 minutes. So what I've done, I've run a bunch of things beforehand to make sure that I can finish within 45 minutes time. So, and I put enough comment and credits, URLs, whatnot, so when you download these scripts you should be able to run it by yourself, set it up, and so you can test whatever I'm going to show you. So we pretty much ran up to, and I kept some of the outputs just so you can see, and these are all the variables that I'm going to use. And I basically created a resource group. If you don't know what's a resource group in cloud, it's pretty much a logical container, so it's easy to clean up, and it's highly recommended with the new deployment module, because once I'm done with this demo I can just go and delete my resource group, and I do not have to delete all the resources one by one. I created new Azure SQL Server, which is again not similar to a SQL Server on-premise. These are again a logical container. And then I put firewall rules so I can connect. I created a couple of databases there, and then I created more servers, more database, and I kept those outputs here. I also try to show you that if you have a backup, you cannot directly restore into Azure SQL Server as Azure SQL Database, but you can create something called a backpack, and you can do it. So what I did, I took the Microsoft Wide World Importer database backpack, and I loaded it into my Azure SQL Server as Azure SQL Database. It does some bulk inserts for data, so that's what you are seeing, all the outputs. And then here I created Elastic Pool, created a database, so I can show this during when I demo my Elastic Job Agents. Now I said demo starts here. Normally, if I did not run anything else, it's going to take me about an hour to 75 minutes, but as this was short, I did a couple of other things. So let's look at the portal, what I did so far, so you don't feel like that I'm not informing you what happened behind the scene. So I've created all these resources. So I showed you a couple of Azure SQL Database, Azure SQL Server, but what I also did is I created an automation account that we talked about, and in that automation account I created a single run book, which I'll show you during the demo. I also created something called function app, and created a function, and we'll use both of those. And here is my run book, and I also, in this notebook, I also gave the full code that I've been using in the function app, also in the automation account. So once you create a run book, you should be able to take this code, replace the default code that get generated, and you should be able to use it. And it's the same with the function. Create a function, it's a timer function, I'll show you, and then replace the code with the code from this notebook, and then you should be able to do what I'm what I'm going to show you. And please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, comments, that if you cannot follow through. So let's look at the first one. I'm going to go to a different notebook called linked server, and I'll show you what I mean by this. So, and I'm not going to read the all the comments because I put it there to make your life easier. So here I'm connecting to my on-premises SQL Server. As you can see, it's a named instance SQL 2019, and I'm creating a database just for demo purpose. We'll be collecting information from Azure SQL databases, and we'll save it in our on-premise. And this is just one option to start with. And so let's run this. And this matches of what I'm collecting. So I already decided what I'm going to collect, and that's how I'm creating my table. Now this command completely successful, completed, okay, because I already tested it. There's already exists. So let's move on. Now here what I'm doing is I'm creating a link server, but if you look at this link server, it's actually pointing to a database source. This is the server name and this is the database name in cloud. So if we go to our portal and then we can sort by type, and as you can see here, UG demo target server. So this is the Azure SQL server, and it has a bunch of resources. One of this is this AdventureWorks database. So that's what we are creating our link server against. So let's do this, and it's done. Now, staying on premises, I'm collecting the size of all the files from that database and saving it into my on-premises DBA database, DBO schema, and this table. And now, some of you might be wondering, after all this, you're just collecting this size, right? What else you can do? So you can pretty much replace this piece of code here and put anything else, right? Any maintenance, any collection, any monitoring you want to do. I'm just showing you the framework, and you can take it from there and use it any way you need. Now let's look at the results set, right, to make sure that we collect it. So as you can see that right now, this is a UTC time and this is my local time. I put both so you are not confused. You can make sure that you're getting the latest data. I have the server name, database name, these are the files and all the details here, right? Now this is all well and good. If someone say, hey, I don't want to bring this data to on-premise, can I just save it into the locally in a Azure SQL database? Can I do that? So yes, you can also do that, but you can run the compute from your on-premises. So right now we're going to connect to the Azure SQL server and into the AdventureWorks database and create the same table there. So let's change the connection. And you can do this all from SSMS. I just use it here. Start using Notebook a little bit more. It's just convenient because I have everything in one place. Now I'm connected to that Azure SQL database named AdventureWorks. I'm creating the same table, but now I'll switch back to on-premise and run the same code. But this time, if you see that my insert statements, I'm inserting link server, database. I shouldn't have done that. Schema and the same table, right? So okay, we're already connected there, and we'll be writing it into the table in Azure SQL database, but we are using our on-premises SQL server for compute. And now if we go and connect there again, just to make sure that the data is there. One thing, you cannot use a use statement in Azure's database, so you always have to make sure that you are in the right context, right? That means you're in the right database. So, and as you can see that we collected the same information and saved it over there. Now this is all well and good, but what will happen if you have hundreds of this, right? Are you going to create link server to every Azure SQL database from on-premise and do your maintenance? That might get cumbersome. I personally didn't like that solution. So to take it one step further, I can have the same query and I can write some PowerShell function, PowerShell code. What this will do, I'm not going to read through this, we don't have time. It will go through, and I can set it up at any level. There is something called management group in Azure. So I can go to management group, then I can go to subscription. These are hierarchy and resource group and your resource group, and find all my Azure SQL Server, Azure SQL Database, and do the same information and do the same task that we've been doing manually for one. So I can automate this and say, So this time what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this and say go and find all of my SQL databases and collect the information instead of one. So this should be pretty quick, and then we should be able to, so this is done. As you can see, the output it collected from each database, and if we run this, just looking at the result set, as you can see now I have more than 3 records, means it went to cloud and collected size from all the databases. Now the next question, am I going to run this manually every time I need to, right? I'm not going to sit in front of a terminal 24/7 to run this, right? So what you can do, as I said, you can combine this with Windows Task Scheduler. So, and I put the XML code, you can take this and import it and create one. So let me show you. I already created this. So I have this job, and what this is doing is calling PowerShell and calling the same function, or sorry, same code that I just ran here, right? To collect the sizes from all databases. And we're going to run this again. So if you see the timing here is a 1:27:21, just keep that in mind. We should see a more latest timestamp once we run this. And I can schedule this, right? I have, for demo purpose, I have it 11 a.m. every day. I can have it multiple times, or whatever we want. So this is running. Let's go back here, and again it's 1:27:21, right? The last collection. So I should be able to see it. As you can see that it came from this one, right? This is just done. So as you can see, collected again. So now I do not need a on-premise SQL server any longer. I can have my PowerShell code, schedule it with my favorite scheduler. It can be a Windows scheduler, but if you have other third-party schedulers, as I said, you can use those. So next is Azure Automation, and Azure Automation is a service by itself. As I said, it has nothing to do with Azure SQL Database. You have to set it up separate. So I already ran this code. So what this did, it created an automation account, created a credential, and created an empty runbook, right? So once I've done with this, what I did, as you can see the output here, I took this code and replaced it with the default code that get written when you create a runbook. So let's go and look at it. One of the good part of Azure Automation is you can do pretty much everything in the UI if you prefer to. So I have a runbook, and I call this update SQL index runbook, and I can edit the runbook from here. I can test it, I can publish it, I can schedule everything from here. Also, you can there are galleries that you can upload your runbooks from there. So let's go back here. Let's go to edit. So let me just tell you a few things. As you can see, I cleared this, that I did not write this all by myself. I downloaded it from System Center automation team, and then I edited as I needed this, right? So you do not have to start it from scratch. And I just want to make one thing clear, that this is just for demo purpose, that what I'm doing here, I'm saying if my index is fragmented over a certain percent, go and rebuild it. I'm not advocating that you do it in your real life. This is just a demo again, but you can take this and you can replace the code with whatever you need to do. So let's look at this quickly. So I have a test runbook, some T-SQL code, and this is doing it against a Azure SQL database named test runbook. So I'm creating a table here, I'm creating a cluster index, and then I'm going to insert 1000 rows, and then I will inject some fragmentation purposely for demo purpose. Once I'm done with that update, now let's check the fragmentation. So as you can see, we are 39.7. Now if you go to portal, I think I set the default here, just for demo purposes, 20%. Again, I said, I'm not advocating this. So click start, because I have all the variables, I have default values, so I do not. But if you want to run it against the same code, against something else, you can fill this, and it will work. I also have a credential that I created, and it's been shared across all the runbooks. So this is queued. This is going to run. In the interest of time, let this run, and we'll come back to this, because I do not have yeah, I should mention this. So in function, I can reserve compute. In automation, I cannot. So I still have to get queued, and then once my queue comes, I get compute, I'll start running. So you have to be careful with this, right? If you have resources that are, or if you have operations that are time sensitive, that you want to run in certain minute and second, this is probably not a good solution for you, because you are queued and you do not have that precise control on this. So you're running this. We'll just move on because we only have a few more minutes left. I talked about Elastic Job Agent, and I also lined up pretty much everything. So I'm just going to show you one demo of that. Hopefully our runbook finished. I'm just going to it is not, it's still probably in queue. Okay, it's just starting, as you can see there. Once it starts, it shouldn't take very long. So yep, as you can see, the fragmentation went down to 0.7, right? And that happened because this runbook completed. So let's Elastic Job Agent. So what I did, also I set up everything. I ran up to the code 90. This is all setting up the permissions, and I put enough nodes. I'm just going to quickly show you one operation here, just in the interest of time. So change connection to job server, right? So let's go to job server, connect, because job server has all the definitions, right? So we can sp add target, sp add job, and all that in the job database. So we are creating a target group, just name it server group 1. I have to refocus the context. Okay, one thing I did not do, I did not turn on the job agent, so those things did not get created once I created the server and the database. So once you do this against that database, all those store procs tables and views get created into your job database. So I didn't do that, but I should have done it before in the interest of time. Okay, it's got created. So now if we run this, as you see, it's done, and we are adding a server into our target group, and we can see that what we did. What is our target group? Our target group name is this, and what is included in our target group? It's a SQL server, and the name is right there. And if you want to exclude a particular database from a server, so you do not want to perform that action, I put the code there how you can do that. Now we are adding a job. Here we are not doing anything, just give it a name and a description. And here we add a job step. So it's the same as and I put in my note, I'm collecting the results from a DMV called DMDB resources stats, and you can read all about this here. So I'm going to collect this from each database from that one server. That's kind of my job step. And if you want to look at your details of the jobs, you can see it from there. And I put a couple of other queries to look at the details about your jobs. Now we're going to start this job. SP start job, we are used to it, same as on premise. And you can also look at your job execution details. So like, what's my current status of my job. And it's all in progress. So let's make sure that it's all completed before we go and try to look at the result set. All succeeded. And sorry, the result is in the warehouse. I named it DBA warehouse. That's how the output get written, so you can see that. Now I have other examples of different target group, different jobs. I put enough notes here how to run it against a elastic pool. You can go through this and test it by yourself. I'm not going to do that in the interest of time. So the last one is the Azure Function, and again I did bunch of stuff. This is a function code that I wrote. I also referred you to a bunch of resources here, including one of my blog posts, because I had to figure out how I can use a app identity with the function app for security purpose, so I do not have to have my password anywhere. So read that blog post to see the details. So let's go here, and this is my function app. This is a PowerShell function. I have one function here. I named it index maintenance, and if you want to code and test, you can. I copied that code from there. The code is right here. I copied that and I replaced it with the default code that it came with, and we can go for test and run. So we're going to use the same code from here. Let's inject some more fragmentation into our index, and then let's see. So this time it's 98% fragmented. So we will go and run this. It's connecting right now. It's connected, and yeah, you're not connected, so we're going to run this, right? So the default timeout is 2 hours. You can change that if you think you will have a long running operation. So now if we come here, you can see the fragmentation went down to 0. It's pretty much because of this code. So if you again, I have a default setting here, and it's saying alter index all on test rebuild. Again, please do not do this in production. Test it and make sure that that's what you want to do. So I know I rushed through the demos in the interest of time, but this is all I have. So again, go through the code, and if you have questions, comments, send it to me. So I just want to recap quickly. You have multiple options. I showed you hybrid model. Depends on what language you'll be using. You have to know your limitations, how scalable your solution is, how much resources you have to manage. So you have to take all this into consideration and then decide what you want to use. You might have to use multiple solutions, like I said. These are a bunch of resources that I used. Go through this if you want to read more. And then again, these are my contacts. Please reach out if you need to. And I want to thank you again. Thank the organizers and the sponsors for this. And I will hang out here for any question you have for the remainder of the time that we have, and enjoy the rest of the summit.